Oh, hey! I didn't realize you were there. This is Nestor, your brother in peace, love, and justice, and this is Duality of Sorts. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out something, and I'm hoping you can help me. Now, I was inspired by this college admission scandal, if you will. And what I have in front of me is a reflection of what the college admission process looks like. Now, on this side, we have students without privilege and access and wealth. And then on this side, we have students with privilege, access, and wealth. And in the center, these gold coins represent colleges and universities, degrees and access and all those things. Now, I know that it looks like they're the same distance apart and that the road to travel to get there is exactly the same. But anybody who knows how to play chess knows that these pawns have to go one step at a time. And that these are power players, and they can move all over the board wherever they want to go. And that basically is our college system. We have a series of students that have access to privilege, power, and wealth that can move all over this board and grab whatever they want as soon as they want it. But then we have students that have no access, that have to take one step at a time. So there were a few takeaways from this whole college admission scandal that I was surprised by. One was that people are surprised that the board looks like this. People are surprised that there are students with privilege and access that have it so easily, and that they're using that privilege, wealth, and access for their advantage. People are surprised by that. I don't know why people are surprised, because we've been talking about it for a very long time. Another takeaway I had was it made me question whether or not colleges and universities even care about being equitable. Do they even care about providing access to everybody equally? Or do they just care that any student pays them tuition and gets a degree? That was another takeaway. And the final takeaway I had, and it made me question, how do these students end up as pawns to begin with? And I think it happens long before they end up on a college board. It happens in elementary, middle, and high school. These pawns, these students without privilege and access, have limited resources, so they go to schools that are overcrowded. They go to schools that lack really good teachers. These students, however, do not. They have access to AP courses. They have access to college prep and planning at an incredible level. So it makes me question, why are these students like this? And it's because we have a broken system, not just in our college admissions, but throughout our entire educational system. Now, we tried to create some equity by creating affirmative action programs. And what that did was it allowed colleges and universities, as part of their entrance, to consider race as a factor. So it put these colleges and universities a little closer to the students without privilege, which is great. But now we live in a time where people are challenging that. These people are saying, well, that's unfair. I can't help that I have privilege and access. So people are saying, how do we make it equal for everybody? In fact, a Pew Research Center study that just completed said 73% of Americans think that race should not be a factor when it comes to college entrance. Add to that the fact that there is a lawsuit currently going through our judicial system that I believe is going to end up in the Supreme Court, our very conservative Supreme Court that challenges affirmative action. What that means is it's going to make it equal for everybody. But again, we don't live in a system that's equal. And the question is why? Why don't we? More importantly, how do we turn this student into this one? And I'll tell you how. Social resiliency score. What is a social resiliency score? Well, before we can answer that question, we have to understand how college acceptance works. Most colleges and universities base their determination on 3 factors. One is a student's grade point average, which with all the resources in the world can be as high as a 10.12. They also base it on advanced placement courses. And if you've ever been to a school with privilege, they have all the access in the world to AP courses, but many schools with low income don't. And then finally, they base it on the SAT ACT score. And if you've taken the SAT ACT, you know that there are plenty of prep classes and pre-tests you can take, but you need this in order to do it. So what we're suggesting is, in this line of 3 things, add a 4th, and that's the social resiliency score. And what that does is it takes all the barriers, all the challenges that students that live in high poverty areas and all those things, it quantifies those numbers. It gives a number for each barrier that you have to face. I'll give you an example. If you are succeeding in a Title I school where most of the students are poor, you get a point. If you live in a high crime or high poverty area, you get a point. If you have a single parent household, or if your school grade is an F or a D, or overcrowded classes, you get points for all of those. Why? Because the barriers and challenges that students with very little access and privilege, the things they overcome to still be successful, are amazing. And in my world, that creates equity. That says that a 10.12 student with all the resources in the world are equivalent to a 4.0 student with none. That's true equity. And in my opinion, that's what it means to work in the gray so that we all win. Thank you for joining me. This has been Duality of Sorts. My name is Nestor, your brother in peace, love, and justice. And until we see you again, remember, keep working in the gray so that we all win.